Thank you very much. And Frédéric, c'est un honneur avoir Frédéric dans le Retinawesome pour la première fois. Nous invitons les speakers, keynote speakers de la France à Paris. Vous êtes né à Paris?
Non, je suis français, je suis marseillais, donc dans le sud de France.
Très belle ville. Très belle ville. Thank you very much.
I learned in 1 year in Paris, but I only live in Marseille for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
Une ville très belle. A very beautiful city, Marseille.
Yeah. Close to the sea, and it's very sunny. It's a sunny city, and with marvelous surroundings. So it's a pleasure to work in my city. Maybe you could visit me next time.
Yeah, sure. Merci. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure for me, and it's an honor to be invited. And thank you again for Dr. Nakamura for the invitation and my topic. So I share my screen. Is it okay for you? The screen is visible for all the audience?
Yeah, it's very good.
So my topic is the use of 41 gauge needle for the management of retinal detachment. So this is the first case to illustrate the interest of the use and the management of this technique. This is a retinal detachment with a recurrence, inferior recurrence under silicone oil, without tear and all visible in the examination, and as you can see on the OCT with a mild macular detachment. So we decide to first of all to previously with a buckle, a circle buckle, and a vitrectomy, and the silicone oil tamponade. And the recurrency was managed with first step removal of the silicone oil. And after that, I use F4 S6 to remove completely all the bubble of silicone oil. It's a liquid very similar to PFCl. It permits not only to remove all the silicone oil, but also to do a tamponade of the macula, to try to remove the fluid under the macula. But even if I try 3 times to push the fluid on the peripheral retina to find the tear, it was impossible. So I decided to use the 41 gauge needle. As you can see, I cut the hand tip of the needle to have a bevel shape of a needle to be more sharp and to have a strength, a more stiff needle. And with a vacuum around 300 and 600 millimeters for the vacuum, it's possible to remove completely the fluid under the retina. So you have only a small blood spot. And after that, as I do not found the tear during the surgery, I decided to do a laser on the inferior part of the retina, and after that only gas. And as you can see on the OCT, the surgery was effective. I'm sorry, the slide that doesn't work. The second example is a huge bolus retinal detachment with a very small tear in the upper part of the retina. And after the vitrectomy, it was impossible to completely remove the fluid through the tear. So I decided not to use PFCL, because with a very small tear and a very peripheral, far periphery tear, it's mainly impossible to remove completely the fluid and to have a flattened retina. So as the patient was a very old man with impossible positioning and bubble positioning face down after the surgery, I decided to remove the fluid with a 41 gauge needle. It was a local anesthesia. This is why you have a huge movement during all the surgery. And after that, we located the small tear in peripheral retina, and I used laser mainly, but it could be also a cryo too. And on the last video, I would like to show you only the location of puncture with a needle, and there is no hole. So it's not a posterior retinotomy. It's only a puncture with a needle, a very small needle. And as you can see here, you could find some small hemorrhage, but without opening of the retina. So this technique could be useful for vellus retinal detachment, especially when the retinal tears were not found, and when you have always or still use an encircling square buckle. It could be useful for far periphery tear, and it's potentially very useful too for patient without the positioning, in which the positioning is not possible after the surgery, especially for very old patient or patient with back pain or back disease. So it's a good solution to completely dry the retina, and it's also a good solution to prevent macular folds, to prevent the use of posterior retinotomy and the use of PFCL. I would like to remind you these two publications from American Journal and Retina, in which they highlight the potential bad effect of PFCL in the recovery of retinal detachment, with a better benefit for posterior retinotomy. It's strange, and peripheral retinal breaks use. But when the peripheral retinal breaks use is not possible, I think it's not a good idea to use posterior retinotomy. And in this article, the posterior drainage retinotomy is not recommended for the surgery because it leads to more failure with more PVR and more periretinal membrane. So I think 41 gauge technique could be a very useful technique, and is a good balance between all these techniques to drive the retina and to reattach completely detachment. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Frederick. Very cool papers and technique. I was going to ask you, before you do the retinotomy, you like bend the needle a bit so that it's gonna go curved subretinally? Why do you bend? And when you bend the needle, does the lumen gets narrow or not?
No, because the needle is not so stiff, so you could bend it a little bit. But the trick and the tip is you have to cut the hand tip of the needle to lead the needle more stiff, and to be able to pass through the 24 gauges sclerotomy, and moreover to have bevel and tip, to have more sharp end tip of a needle, to be able to pass through the retina even if the retina is completely detached. And I locate the puncture on the posterior pole just close to vessels, because when you are close to the main vessels, the retina is a little bit thicker, and the ILM is also an element to have a more stiff retina and less movable.
Oh, okay. And why you think the use of perfluorocarbon, as was mentioned into these papers, gets more likelihood of complications with PFC rather without PFC? But because if you use PFC, you get more complications, and why would that be?
I used to use PFCL2, especially for very large tears and giant tears. But I think in this paper, it's probably due to some remnant bubble of PFCL. And for a long time, when the patient is laid down on the back, the bubble will probably harm the macula, and it's probably harmful for the macula. Probably for mechanical effect with mechanic compression, and maybe on inflammatory or biochemical effect, but I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks a lot. And Li King, would you like to ask Dr. Frederick anything?
Yes.
No. Would you like to ask Frederick any question?
Yeah, some questions
before your presentation.
Yeah. So, how can you tell that how can you drain the subretinal fluid completely by the 41 gauge needle?
Yeah, it's not always the case. I remove mainly, I think, 95% of the fluid. But when you have only a very small, thin subretinal detachment on the macula, it's not necessary to ask the patient to face down post-op. So that's why I try to dry and completely the retina, but I think it's not completely and always the case.
So will you do gas tamponade or silicone oil tamponade afterwards?
Yeah, it's mainly gas tamponade. In this situation, I would like to completely dry the subretinal space in order to have a complete bubble. And in this case, the recurrency and the recurrence of the retinal detachment is less frequent. So if you let a lot of fluid in subretinal space, and especially if it's an old fluid, I think a very thick fluid and with a lot of protein, it's a long-lasting fluid. It's more difficult to have a complete resolution during time. And if you use silicone oil, you could facing to a recurrency due to the redetachment of the retina in face of the peripheral tear, according to the position of the patient, especially for inferior retinal detachment. So that's why I try to dry and to have a complete dryness of the subretinal space, and that's why I prefer to use, in this situation, gas, and mainly C2F6 or sometimes C3F8.
All right, cool. And Frederick, what is the make of the cannula? Is by any chance is a red one?
What do you mean?
I mean the brand, the make of the cannula.
Of the needles.
The 41.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a cannula. It's a De Rouen cannula. De Rouen cannula. It's from I think it's Dork company product. But you could find it in I think in in the catalog from Bausch & Lomb too with Synergetics, and it depends on your vitrectomy size, because this is a 25 gauge at the back, at the origin of the needle, and the 41 gauge at the end tip. But you could find the same kind of needle in 23 gauge too, and the hand tip is not 41 but 42 or 43 gauges.
Okay. Does anybody wants to ask Frederic any more question? Barbara would like to ask Frederic any question, and then you proceed with your case, because I know you have a meeting now with guys from India. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have another meeting in 10 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay, so if you just if you want to ask him any question, and then you proceed to your presentation. Thanks for coming.
So, Frederic,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, first of all. I'm used to that needle because I use it to induce a retinal detachment, of course, for retinal surgery. And I've never done it to reabsorb unless when I tried with PFCL, it doesn't really work all the time with PFCL. So my question is, why do you feel the need at all to remove the subretinal fluid and not just allow the RPE to do so when you're sure that there are no breaks open? Sometimes when there is a leftover of subretinal fluid that does not reabsorb, I have very good result with micropulse laser.
Okay, it's a really good question. Thank you very much for your questions. For the first one, I not always want to remove completely the fluid. It's only for a chronic fluid. I mean, when the fluid is very thick and it's very difficult for the RPE to reabsorb this kind of fluid. And it's mainly for redetachment, for inferior retinal redetachment. And when I'm not able to find the tear, and so I'm not sure to be able to do the PEC if the retinal tear is posterior, or if the retinal tear is anterior, but with a huge retinal detachment, with impossibility to ask the patient to face down after the surgery. So it's risky to let a huge bubble of fluid because of the risk of fold. For the first question. But and for the second one, I have no experience of lasers.
Micropulse laser works actually very well, but I think this is a very good option when micropulse is not available. And I can't confirm that the small puncture with 41 gauge do not represent a break. I also never treat them when I induce a retinal detachment. There's no need. So it's a good option. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.
Thanks again. Merci beaucoup, Frédéric, pour ta présentation. Nous beaucoup aimons sa présentation. Et maintenant, now I call Barbara. Barbara, buongiorno. I don't speak very good Italian, you know, but I'm trying. But I'll get there. If you want to send your presentation, thanks a lot for coming back.
So, thank you first of all.
Do you want me to share your video?
I sent a video of mine, which is a very extreme case. This video is not just about the case, but about ethics in our surgery. This 7-year-old boy with Peters anomaly came to me for retinal detachment, choroidal detachment, and a corneal perforation. I decided to take him to surgery and give a chance to this eye, since the other eye had a retinal detachment as well. This type of surgery is a total surprise. It's like to be a witness of a show and you don't know the end of it. The surgeon needs to be full of hope and patience. I removed the decompensated cornea, attached the temporary keratoprosthesis on one side, and started to clean. With viscoelastic, I was pushing tissues. I drained the hemorrhagic choroidal detachments, and I started to clean. The main goal of this surgery is to restore the anatomy, and it is extremely difficult. I highlighted some choroid that was disinserted, and I had sutured it with a 10-O proline to the scleral eye wall. And then I proceeded by suturing the temporary keratoprosthesis. Through the temporary keratoprosthesis, I could see what the vitrectomy probe could do by removing the blood clots, preretinal membrane, subretinal bands, and remnants of vitreous. So after a while of after cleaning and looking for the retina and removing scars, I could find much more retina than I expected at the beginning of the case. And I was happy to see that the eye had maybe a chance. So I reattached the retina with PFCL, performed the laser, and finally exchanged the PFCL with silicone oil. In a second step, I proceeded with surgery in the left eye, where the retina was detached and the cornea decompensated. In the post-op, you can see the improvement of the cornea and the retina even 1 year and a half after surgery in the right eye and in the left eye as well. So you might have thought this was a crazy surgeon, but I think that only if we try, we know the limits, and we can move it with technology and knowledge and turn the impossible into possible. This guy is much happier now with ambulatory vision and the ability to see his mother. So I do think it was worth. Thank you.
Congratulations, you saved the eye. As you saw, you started the retina, you did not see a thing, and after a while you could see a healthy retina around, and you did the retinotomy, and then very tough case, because who does your grafts? You do yourself the grafts, or have a cornea team to start the case?
No, actually I do everything because I've been doing trauma cases for a while, so I used to do all the steps myself. And I've been showing this. I know it is very extreme, but it's not the only one. And it's just to give this message that sometimes we think that it is impossible to reach any result, but it's not, especially in very young patients. And he was a kid, as you've seen. They have a major ability to heal and improve. So I think sometimes it's worthwhile to at least try, even if we think is no hope, a case without hope. That's it. I'm sorry, it's not about the technique. I had other videos to show, but sometimes I also think it's nice to propose challenges, and because it moves forward our job. And then from cases like this, we think that we might reach a next step in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when I suggested the theme, the best case could be the best result, the best reaction, the best result that particularly this patient did not have any possibility maybe to see, and now he can see. So this is the best thing to do that he could have done for the patient. And for me,
I was also surprised that he did not have a PDR. I've been following this boy for 2 years now, and both eyes are holding on, so it was worth.
Yeah, congratulations. Frederic, would you like to ask Barbara any questions?
No question, just a comment. It's a really impressive surgery. I think we could digest this surgery by never give up, and it's a really nice and impressive surgery. So thank you very much to share it.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Olivia, thanks for coming, Olivia. And would like to ask Barbara before she goes to the other meeting with the Indians. Tudo bem? Como estás?
Hi, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, Barbara. I always follow you. You always have impressive cases. I love your macula surgery, and this case was amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I would be very interested to hear Dr. Kingley speaking about myopic traction maculopathy. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I have to move to the other meeting, but if they are late, I will come back. Okay?
Yeah, no problem at all.
Or Dr. Kingley, we will speak separately about MTM treatment. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. I apologize that I have to switch to the other meeting, and possibly I will come back, okay?
Thanks, Barbara, for coming.
I'll see you later.
Gracias.
Thank you.
And without further ado, let's call Dr. Li King. How are you?
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation.
Bonjour, André Joca, ça va bien?
Bonjour, cher
Frédéric, vous saviez que André Joca a étudié à faire un entraînement de chirurgie vitréorétinienne à Paris au 15-20?
Nice to meet you. Il y a beaucoup de chirurgiens brésiliens qui sont venus en France et qui parlent le français, il me semble.
Oui, il y a quelques-uns, comme Hudson.
Oui, André Maya aussi.
C'est pas en France, mais...
Il me semble Michel Farah.
Michel Farah.
Oui, Michel Farah parle bien français, oui.
Très bien, oui. C'est un bon ami, Michel.
Oui, passe le bonjour.
Très bon. So, Li King, the screen is yours.
Yes, good morning. So I would like to share one of my case of myopia foveal detachment. This is a 77-year-old female. She had pathology myopia and presented with the visual acuity of finger count of both eyes. She had nuclear sclerotic cataract and left eye vitreomacular traction and foveal detachment. The right eye suffers from the myopia choroidal neovascularization. The axial length of the both eye is about 31 millimeters. So this is the OCT of the left eye. We can see there is a it's a VMT and the foveal detachment. So this is the more scans of the OCT. The detachment is involves the whole macula.
How do you get the image from the right side?
The right side, you mean the OCT? So I perform the left eye cataract extraction and vitrectomy and internal limiting membrane peeling and gas tamponade. So this is the surgical video. I did the cataract extraction and intraocular lens implantation, and then followed by the vitrectomy and assisted by the intravitreal triamcinolone injection. And then I stained the membrane. I injected some ICG, but there was poor staining because of the posterior hyaloid still remained above the macula. So I proceed with the posterior hyaloid removal by the diamond dust scraper, and then remove the vitreous membrane by the iron forceps. But the vitreous is very adherent to the surface of the retina, So it's difficult to remove it at some area around the disc at this case, and then I have to repeat the procedure by using the diamond dust scraper to remove some of the posterior hyaloid, and then release the traction over the retinal surface of the posterior hyaloid. And then I restained the membrane and then performed the ion peeling. But there is still some residual posterior hyaloid near the disc. So I remove it by the forceps. And restain, there is still residual internal limiting membrane underneath, so I remove the residual internal limiting membrane. And this is the area of the removal of the IOM. And then I have the gas tamponade in the end by C3F8. This is the post-operative photo about 5 weeks. And this is the OCT. We can see there is no traction over the macula, and the subretinal fluid is less. And it's at the latest follow-up, I can see that the SRF is less than this one. So this is the OCT scan of the whole macula.
Much better and great images.
Yes. Yes. So this is the OCT scan of the right eye showing that there's myopia, choroidal neovascularization. Okay, thank you. This is the end of the case sharing.
Very tough. And you know, the staining doesn't come very bright, but still with the macular lens, you are going to be able to see it, the membrane, and peel it off very well. And you guys use brilliant blue, or you think the green in the cyanide is a better approach?
The poor staining is probably due to there is still residual posterior hyaloid over the macula. So I will try to remove most of the posterior hyaloid and then restain several times. And according to my experience, the brilliant blue is less effective to stain the IOM than the ICG. So I will use ICG in this high myopia cases. But for other routine ERM or macular hole, I use brilliant blue to stain.
Okay, and Dr. Frederick wants to ask a question.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your nice presentation. I have a question on the peeling. Do you always peel all the ILM? I mean, even if the fovea is very thin with a traction and without a hole, are you not afraid to induce a hole in this kind of high risk of aperture of the fovea?
Yes, this is a very good question. So in the peeling, I will use the diamond dust to help me to remove the hyaloid and also make the flap on the IOM. So when I peel the IOM, I will try to do the flap circumferentially at the beginning, not towards the fovea and never away from the fovea. So when I do the circumferential ion peel, and then I will peel it towards the fovea, then we will prevent the foveal macular hole at the surface.
Okay, and you not let the tuft of ILM on the fovea. You always remove it. You do not perform foveal sparing. You remove it
yes.
always.
Yes.
Okay.
And because I did the foveal sparing when the macular hole is large, and then I will use the iron flap to cover the hole. But for this foveal detachment without macular hole, I peel off all the hour.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I add some of?
Yes, of course.
I still have 5 minutes before going. I actually saw your video, and I saw it's very frequent to have some subretinal, submacular fluid left after this type of surgery. And I really recommend to switch to macular buckle technique only for when there is no hole. It's a perfect technique to completely solve the schisis and the detachment without touching the retina. No need to touch the retina, and reserve the vitrectomy with peeling only if there is a full thickness macular hole to cover with an ILM flap. If you switch to this technique, it's becoming very easy. I would like, even to discuss separately the new technique and the new buckle that I am using. In 20-30 minutes, it's done, and there is no chance to induce a macular hole, because unfortunately, by peeling, you did a great job, but unfortunately, I see a lot of iatrogenic full thickness macular hole or leftover. The detachment which does not solve. It can stay for a while without reattaching. Instead, if you place a buckle, even if in your case you place a buckle, and the patient can see very well and it's saved for life.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I would like to learn the macular buckle from you.
I know it's not commonly available because there are no good products, but finally I decided to work with the AJL company. I have modified the design so it's much easier to implant. I would like to show it to you, but I'm not sure there is a time. Hudson, you tell me if there is 2 minutes I can show, otherwise I will send you separately the video.
Yes, of course, thank you.
Oh yeah, you could send us the video. I think I've seen it before several times.
But you haven't seen the new model. I just did very recently.
Oh yeah, so the last ones. And of course, to get away with the schisis, I think that's the best approach. Otherwise, you would be moving on and touching the ILM and things, and unless it's really necessary, as you said, the macular buckle technique, the way you do, I think could solve much more faster and safer. Yeah, of course, these matters. Thanks a lot for the comments. And Andrea, would like to comment on the King's case?
Yeah, sure. Congratulations, Kingsley. It's a tough case. But what about the vision? Because in many times, these patients do not do it to the schisis. They do not improve a lot. The vision, I mean.
Well, the patient reported vision is improving because there is still, we didn't do the BCVA yet. So the vision is 1/60 now. I left some myopia behind because she had myopia before. So I think she reported the vision is better. But from my previous cases, they are doing better after the operation, the foveal schisis, and the SR will resolve gradually, but it needs some time. Yes.
Yeah, one thing that I do that helps me to decide when to operate or not is microperimetry. Microperimetry can be a useful tool to decide if this patient might improve or not, because some cases are very old, and although you
No. You should operate them all. Unless they have very huge atrophy, they will all improve. Believe me, I have so many. They all improve, but you have to reattach the retina and not induce holes. They do improve a lot.
Yeah,
But it takes a
sometimes there
long
is
time.
atrophy, and the cases they do not have a lot of vision. And in my experience, I try to select the case that have the best chance of improvement. But I haven't tried, I must say, your buckle. I am very curious to see and try it.
You send me your email, I will send you my cases.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, please, Barbara, send us your cases.
Yeah, I'm so excited because finally this patient can see. That's why you will be happy. They can see very well. I'm speaking like 8/10, 10/10, things like that, unless they have atrophy, of course, but that's another story.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving forward, Jorge, thanks for coming. Would you like to comment?
Hi, Hudson. Hi, Barbara. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to hear all this very tough case. I'd like to ask you if you can give some tips how to approach, because sometimes we have very hard times to reach the posterior pole, and I'd like to hear if you have any good tips and tricks for this. Thank you.
Yes, I use 25 gauge, and we have forceps is from the dock, and it's 25 gauge ILM forceps for high myopia, and the length of this forceps is around 33 millimeters, so it's long enough to reach the posterior pole for the high myopia. This forceps is from the company of Dock.
Thank you.
And also, we can use the 23 gauge PPV, and forceps from Alcon can reach at least 31 millimeters of the axial length.
Oh yeah, in the last Saudi Arabia Retina Symposium, also Ihab Hayes from Egypt, he showed us some long enough tips so that we could reach the retina further with those myopic cases. And also it was shown there are some tools that we use to lift the retina from the scleral side. So you go like indentating the retina, doing some indentation. So you approach the sclera from the retina from outside. This is very interesting that we watched too in the meeting.
Another good issue is the scleral wood. The sclera in the high myop is not like the others. And myself, I used to suture everyone, even 25, because in my experience, all they link. And I'd like to hear the others.
Yeah, good tip. And so we move forward to Olivia. Olivia, good morning.
Hi.
Buenos dias a usted. You are in Bolivia
Hi.
now, our neighbor country. If you want to share your screen, you are welcome again for Retinawesome.
Let me see.
Do you want me to show your video?
Yes, I'm going to show the video.
I will do that. To share. No, I don't think I have your video.
And it.
Find it? Did you find your video?
But give me.
Maybe we could go ahead with another video, and then we display yours.
I think the connection is switched off.
So Olivia, so we'll go with Jorge Rocha, and then we come back to your video, okay? Could you go now, Jorge? Jorge, you are muted.
You're
Do you have your video available by now?
Yes.
Oh,
Can you
thanks.
see?
Olivia, she was out for a while. I think she disconnected.
Yeah, but she's back, I think.
Yeah.
Look at.
Okay, you could start, and then after your talk, we call Olivia back. Okay, Olivia? Jorge Rocha is going to present his case first.
Yeah, very simple case, just to open the discussion about idiopathic macular hole, what have been done. But I'd like to listen, everyone, because it's macular hole, idiopathic macular hole is still an open discussion, because if you have so many techniques for the same proposal, it's not close enough. And then they're not moving, but I can move by here. Yes, I have no disclosure. I have to say to join you. It's very nice to discuss scientific topic with so many friends across the globe. And thank you, Hudson, for inviting me more one time. And I will just discuss about inverting flap for idiopathic macular hole. The 62 years old female, pseudo-faced with a macular hole with 2200. And I just perform not running, why not? I really don't know why they don't. Yes. It's a very short video, 1 minute video. And I just stain with brilliant brew. And with the forceps, I just make a thin tears of the internal limitant membrane and go for air fluid exchange very slowly and use air to finish the case. And I have more than 85% success on this technique. And I use for any hole, even with a huge hole. I tried this first. If it doesn't work, I go back and peel everything. And the patient got 2440. This is another case. Just stop here. And then this is the idea. I use nowadays most of the case for inverting flap. Only small hole like 400 or less diameter, I use nothing. I just remove the posterior hyaloid and left with air. Most of the case nowadays I use air. Only when the help rate I use SF6. I believe that if you don't close in the first 48 hours, the macular hole will not close in more time. Doesn't matter if you use C3FA or anything that's get inside longer, will not help any. And open for discussion and hear what everyone think about this and different techniques and why.
Great technique, really great. And as I was showing and just comparing, like leaking, we like using more of the brilliant blue, even though I have used before the indocyanine green, but I prefer brilliant blue. I think we get such nice images and it gets more stained, in my point of view. What do you think, Andre, about these cases?
Yeah, I got great case. Congratulations, Jorge. Very nice case. Well, I just think like him. I think brilliant blue is less toxic than indocyanine green, and I always try to use it. But I only do this technique in bigger macular holes, because in smaller holes, like you said, I think the ordinary technique was removing the internal limiting membrane works very well. But in bigger holes, this technique is very nice, and it was very elegant done. Congratulations, Jorge. Very nice case. Do you try to put the limiting membrane inside the hole, or just cover it?
I never, in the old times, tried to stuff, just push the limitant membrane, but don't use this because you can eventually touch the RPE and you're gonna lose vision forever. And then nowadays I just cover and try to be very slowly. Even with slow air fluid exchange, sometimes this flap can dislodge, and then I just use viscoelastic to replace and make some pressure, and it will be more easy to gas fluid exchange without dislodge the flap. And sometimes when they fail, I go back for the usual technique. I just remove 360 internal limitant membrane and recover with the other part of the limitant membrane. Sometimes the fail is because when you after finish air fluid exchange, the flap dislodge, and then we have to go back and replace. And another thing is the staining. The brilliant blue is very safe, but I have one case with toxicity of brilliant blue that has retina atrophy. I don't use more the ICG because the toxicity, because the price that's very expensive here in Brazil, and because brilliant blue is staining very well for me. And sometimes when I have high myopia, I need to double staining, triple staining, because in high myopia it's not easy to really has a good color, but in normal eyes, just one time is enough. I just close the infusion, not for a while, just to inject, and the color just get in the bottom, because if you stay with the fluid comes, they're gonna wash very fast. I don't use to mix with sugar. I mean the balanced solution with glucose. I don't use this to have more heavy weight, but it's simple. I just use much more nowadays this technique than to free flap. I used to do a free flap, but sometimes it's tough because sometimes the flap is floating and have to cut in the air of inside the eye. It's very tough. I use sometimes, but or if you operate 1, 2, 3 times you don't have any more internal limitant membrane, sometimes you can go outside the arcade to get some piece of internal limitant membrane, but have to think that far from the fovea, the internal limitant membrane is thinner. They're gonna be very tough to get a good graft to replace. And in very tough case, you can use the retina graft. Just cut a piece of retina and cover the hole. But I never stuff more the interlimitant membrane inside the hole. It's not good. I have a paper that says that when you try to stuff the limitant membrane can make more damage.
Yeah, and besides that you're absolutely right. I think that when you stuff things inside the hole, this disrupts the regeneration of the lines. And in the end, you get a closed hole, but the vision is not so good. So I think you're right in just putting it over.
Thanks, André. Thanks, Jorge. And now, Olivia, you got a little disconnected for a while, and thanks for coming back. And thanks for presenting with us again. Buenos dias.
Hi, Hudson. It's a pleasure to share with you this presentation. I am Olivia Valdivieso. I am from Bolivia. And this is the case. Let me know if it is running.
If you want to put a large screen, it's okay. We can see it, but just enlarge. I think in the left-hand side, you go to the green button. Yeah. Yes, yeah, it's perfect now.
Okay. So this is a case of ocular traumatism. It's a 38-year-old male while he was hammering a piece of iron entering into his eye. This is the ultrasound B mode where we can see an image, and when we decrease the gain to 80, we can see the foreign body inside the eye. So here we can see the full thickness one. It's in zone 3. The entering of the foreign body was here. So we decide to do a peritomy as long as I can see the wound. I did a 2800 degree. Here I take the lateral muscle so I can see and clean the edges of the scleral wound. Here we can see the complete wound. So we decide to close it with simple suture nylon 80. Here is the wound completely closed. So after this, we go for the 25 gauge pars plana vitrectomy. It's a young male, so here we can see the foreign body. We make the posterior vitreous detachment. This is very important and very difficult when it's a young patient. And after that, we decide to clean around the foreign body, clean the edge. He was very unfortunate. See, he's not, it's next behind the macula. Around the retinal one, we do laser. I like to protect very, with a lot of laser around the wound and the foreign body. I protect the macula with perfluorocarbon heavy liquids. And after this, I create a new incision in a place that is comfortable for me to handle the foreign body. See, I do a big wound, and I use a 20 gauge forceps to remove the intraocular foreign body. Here it comes. This is the best part. Because it has to fit. And there it goes. He's a phakic patient, so I was very careful about the crystalline. And this is it, the trophy. Then we close the wound. Simple suture, nylon. After that, I clean, I aspirate the perfluorocarbono. I do a fluid gas exchange. I left sulfur hexafluoride just to protect, and this is the end of the case. We'll close the conjunctiva. This is a photo like 2 months after, and see the macula. This is very, he was so happy because the wound was next in the inferior arcade, so it didn't touch anything, didn't produce I was afraid about epiretinal membrane or something like that, and it went very good.
Simply amazing, Olivia. Such tough case, and it's a huge foreign body. We'd like to the comments to hear from Frederick.
Just one comment. Very, very nice case, and congratulations. Do you think it's necessary to put PFCL? Because I think the foreign body is too heavy to float on the PFCL. So that's why I never use it, except if a retina is detached. But I never try to let the foreign body go to the PFCL to be sure that it's floating, and so it's prevent a macular trauma.
I always use it because if the foreign body falls down when you are trying to take it out in the sclera, that is, it's common sometimes when you don't have the exact width of the foreign body, and it can fall down. And if it falls down just in the macula, all your surgery and your results are going to be very
so
different.
In your experience, it's enough to prevent huge trauma of the macula if the foreign body falls, because some cases, unfortunately, it happens to not grab enough the foreign body, and when the foreign body fall, it could increase the lesion of the retina. But I'm not sure that PFCL is enough to prevent this. But if you have this experience, maybe I will try it in the future.
For me, it has been working very good. And ocular trauma is like a Pandora's box. You can expect anything, and you have to be prevent to anything that you can find inside the eye. So ocular trauma, Pandora's box. And this case was beautiful.
Thank you very much.
And Jorge?
Hi, Olivia. Very beautiful case. I love that. And the result was terrific. But I have many comments that maybe can help the discussion about the PFO to protect. The PFO will not protect from the drop of the metal to reach the retina, because you're gonna, but the two things gonna happen when you make a bubble. Don't need to be a big bubble, but they when they reach the PFO, they use it to change the trajectory. You not go directly, and sometimes they slow a little, just because we have a bubble has like a dome shape, and when the metal reach the bubble, they're gonna just move a little, and sometimes you move for outside the fovea or an optic nerve, something like that, gonna make a big damage, and then just that. But I agree that the PFO will not prevent everything, just because the metal you're gonna cross the PFO. And I use, in that kind of metal, I use more the magnetic, just because sometimes we're gonna grasp with the forceps. Sometimes you lose, because the shape of the metal, the sometimes is not so good to get good grab, and then I use more the magnetic to take it out, and I use sometimes to take it out by the sclera. It's not easy and very dangerous, because when they are taking this, many vitreous fiber are gonna go out from the wood, and this thing can make some traction make some tears in the vitreous base. You need to check it out, all the vitreous base at the end. If you have any damage, you have to treat this with laser and gas. And so I think the best approach is to take it out by anterior chamber. As you has shown that that's the clean lens, and then it's not good to take it out because the guy was spared from damaging the lens. But when you have the damage, just remove the crystalline lens and remove the by the anterior chamber. That's much more easy, and they can save you for retina damage. I think for a while it's okay. Thank you,
George. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mohammed, did you just come? Did you just
no, I'm
Hi,
landed?
Mohammed. Good to see you again after Pakistan.
Hi.
Just lose the.
I think he got disconnected. He just came from somewhere. I think he just left landed in Cairo. I'm not quite so sure, but he could probably have been disconnected. And André Jucá,
Yeah, sure.
would you like to introduce your presentation? And
Sure.
maybe before you start, Mohammed,
Yeah.
I think he just connected again. Mohammed Tawfiq, did you connect?
I am connecting now. Yeah. I'm sorry because I'm still in the airport. I have just 10 minutes to go back to my home. But I just have one comment about the using of PFC to protect the macula. I use the Helon instead of PFC because the perfluorocarbon, when the metal foreign body is dropped from anterior chamber or from anterior approach to go down, it may think in the PFC. So for me, if I need to protect the macula from damaging from a metal foreign body, I use a bubble of Helon. It protects more than the metal foreign body think inside the PFC. And also engagement of the foreign body again while you have a Helon, because the Helon is displacing the foreign body away, but the PFC may like some stacking the foreign body in the surface of the PFC, or even is going down inside the PFC. So for me, I stopped using the PFC and using the Helon instead of this, and it's for me feeling like a better way. Second point about the crystalline lens. I usually remove the crystalline lens even if it's clear, because if you're going for vitrectomy and traumatized eye, it's usually that this patient is going for cataract after a while, 1 year, couple of years, couple of months. So I usually go for anterior approach, even the lens is clear. I remove it because if you're going for traumatic cases, even if the lens is spared, it's usually going for post vitrectomy cataract. So I prefer to this way. But by the way, Dr. Oliva, you did a great job because you have such a beautiful surgery, and also the PFC, what you are doing is great. So you're just sharing some thoughts about the different techniques and different point of view. So it's great to see your surgery. Thank you. I just sorry for the noise around me because I'm still in the airport. I just have that 10 minutes to come back to my
Sure, great
Hi,
comments.
Dr. George.
Mohammed.
Nice to see you.
My honor.
Nice to see you, Mohammed. Good to see you again.
Yes, I see you too.
We need to go to Pakistan again.
Yes.
For sure. Thanks, Olivia. Nice, tough, but beautiful case. And André, you may proceed with your case, please.
Thank you, Hudson. It's very nice being here, and thank you all for letting me share in this case. This case, it's an unusual case in a patient that have
Do you want me to display your video? Oh yeah, okay, you got it.
But since he have this disciform scar, we guess this may be a neovascular complication. So we went to vitrectomy, and we didn't know really what to expect in the macular region. So we see that there was a big subretinal hemorrhage, but the macula itself, the hemorrhage in the macula was not that big. So we decided in this case not to remove the blood because under the retina, because there was not a lot of blood under the macula area. Most of the blood was outside. So we performed an injection of TPA in this region anyway. There was paracentral, and we performed the subretinal injection of, here you go, of Avastin. So we did Avastin under the macular area and TPA under the blood to try to remove most of the blood away from the macular area. So we did a fluid air exchange, and we put a little bit of C3 F8. We did this peripheral laser to try to avoid for a complicated retinal detachment. So this was the best seeing eye of the patient. So for him it was quite a disaster. He lost vision from day to night like that. And we did this, this case was very, very fast case and not very challenged, but this is the bubble. And you can see that the patient has some macular function, and the vision at this point was like 20/60, so the patient could still read with some ads. So for him it was very good. But these cases show us that we must be prepared for anything. When we're going to the case, we're thinking in cutting the retina and removing the blood if there was a lot of blood. But in the end, this was not necessary. And of course that we have to follow this patient for a long time, because there is also always the question of this membrane coming back and blooding again. That's it. Thank you for your attention.
André, great case. And I saw a similar case, except that I thought, you know, this subretinal hemorrhage, it was so peripheral that I thought, because it was like a small tumor like that, and a hemorrhage at the base, subretinally. And then I did a B scan, but we came up with the diagnosis of peripheral neovascular AMD, choroidal neovascular membrane, which was not a tumor, fortunately. And did you worry about draining this subretinal hemorrhage, or it was not thought of, it was not necessary because it was not over the macula?
Yeah, in this case we have to adapt. We are thinking when we get in, maybe we have to cut the retina and just to remove everything under the retina. But since most of the blood was outside the macular area, we try to minimize the intervention, because cutting the retina, there is also always the risk with blood and everything of severe PVR, and we are trying to avoid, if possible, doing that. So we just saw that the retina, the blood, in this situation was the best scenario. The blood was a little outside the macular area, so we decided that maybe it's better not to cut and remove all the blood, just try to displace it from the macular area and put anti-VEGF, that we decided to put it under the retina for better action. And we did just that, and the patient very fast recovered the vision. After 2 weeks, he was able to read again. So sometimes we have to adapt to see what's going to happen during the surgery, because the patient have an important vitreous hemorrhage. Another thing is important to do, if you're going to do that, to do it fast, because the blood is toxic, and if you wait, it's not going to be any good. even if you remove the blood is under the macula.
Yeah, very interesting. And if you had to inject TPA, would you inject it intravitreally? If you had, not in this case, if you had some hemorrhage on the macula subretinally and then you wanted to use TPA, would you use in a case not like this, but if the hemorrhage was on the macula?
Yeah, when this small hemorrhage, not bigger than this diameter, I think TPA and gas can remove it from the area. But if it's bigger hemorrhage, like more than this diameter, so I think it's better to try to go to surgery and remove it. That's depend on the amount of hemorrhage. If you have severe subretinal hemorrhage in macular area, I think you got to remove to get the better results.
Okay. Pedro Echagui would like to comment on André Jucá's case.
No,
Buenos dias, Marcelo.
Nice
Buenos dias,
nice
Pedro.
Case. Yes, very nice case, André, and congratulations for you. And it's very difficult to manage this patient, and it's very good your solution.
Thank you.
Marcelo, welcome. Good to see you, Marcelo Sassamoto.
Nice seeing you. Hello, guys.
Tudo bem?
Alô, Marcelo.
Hey, André. Tudo bem?
Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, Marcelo?
Tudo bem. Jorge.
Thanks a lot,
Bienvenido.
everybody. And if Mohammed Tawfiq, he just landed in Cairo, and if he's available, would you like to present his case? I don't know whether...
Give me, Dr. Hudson,
Still
about
there.
15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, okay?
Okay, you're available now? No, not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I just on my way.
All right. So, Pedro, why don't you present your case now?
Okay, I present for you. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Marcelo Hudson, for this invitation. This is a special patient because it's a ocular trauma with a macular hole and retinal detachment. I'm going to present this case. I know there may be different opinion, but I think the result is good. You hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Very
please.
well.
It's about a 15 years old patient who had a trauma playing paintball, and since then he has decreased the vision. On examination, he presented macular hole with retinal detachment and vitreous hemorrhage. This situation did not allow me to see the lesion that caused the retinal detachment. And then, starting with the surgery, this patient had a multiple lesions, and so decided to put a silicone band type 240, yes, and then starts with the central vitrectomy. And here you can see the hemovitreous, and you can see the retinal detachment. And then detach the posterior hyaloid, and in which I was lucky, science is often more difficult to do in young patients. And then after that, I continue with the vitrectomy. I shape the base of the vitreous, and then I place brilliant blue to stain of the ILM, and started with the peel in the temporal sector, and made 2 flaps that were placed over the macular hole. Here you have the flaps, and then put methylcellulose to stabilize the flap. Okay. I place PVCL as far as cold, So apart from the retina dialysis, the patient had a multiple retinal holes in the temporal sector. After that, I continue with the shape of the base of the vitreous. Okay, and then perform the air leak exchange with difficult, which had a bit of retinal slippage here in the dialysis. You can see here. And then I also perform cryotherapy to treat on a dialysis, and then extract the PVCL. You can see the flap over the macular hole. Yes, I instruct the PVCL on the nerve, and then do photocoagulation in sectoral and temporal sectoral to treat the small macular retinal hole in the periphery. Then I put silicone oil and close the conjunctiva. And the next day you had a good result, and the next day I was already seeing 2000, and you can see the flaps of the limitant, the ILM in the which the macular hole closed. And then 1 year later, I extract the silicone oil, and the patient have 20/40. This is a very good case because you have a young patient which treated with trauma ocular, and you put silicone oil. I don't like silicone oil, but in this case, I think there is a good resolution. Thank you very much.
Nice case, nice case. And usually, when we do this inverted flap technique, we put just the right amount of ILM on the macular hole, but you put the whole thing, covered the hole, and then it closed. This is a very good technique because actually it's a kind of stretching from outside in and making the hole close. So I liked your technique. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you very much, Goodson. It's a good technique. I love the flap, inverted flap techniques, and doing a lot of macular holes. In a small macular hole, I want to do a small peel, but in a big macular hole, I want to do the inverted flap techniques.
Yeah, and the good thing is that you don't need to measure that accurately, exactly the size of the hole. And if you get it flat and use the PFO as you used to make the exchange very slow, I guess, air fluid exchange, and then yeah, it works pretty well. Works pretty well. What do you think, Olivia, about the technique?
Hi, Pedro. He's an excellent surgeon and a very good friend. I have seen a couple of cases of him about macular surgery, and this inverted flap technique goes very good in any case of difficult case. And I love it. You leave it the Hilon?
No, I put yes, methicillose. I don't put Hilon because it's very strong, and you got. I want to take more liquid solution.
Okay. Beautiful case, Pedro. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good morning, Lagaswar. Welcome back to Retinawesome. How are you doing? You are muted. Oh, yeah.
How are you?
Fine.
Hi, all.
Want to comment on this case from Pedro?
Yeah, it's wonderful case. Hi, Dr. Pedro. So, I wanted to know actually, how do you use this one? Whether you use the PFCL to this one, press the retina back in the detached retina to make the ILM feel easy, or simply you do like this?
Yeah, I think he got the membrane, it looked like doing the regular peel, but then it was in a stalk, so it didn't came out entirely, so he just covered. This was amazing because you can actually use PFO in your favor, not to let it go. Sometimes you do the air fluid exchange, Nageswar, and it comes out. So that's why I like this technique a lot.
Yeah.
And Frederic, do you do the same technique or do you do something similar?
Yeah, but I prefer to put the PFCL first, and after that I peel under PFCL in order to have a better control of the flap and to stabilize the flap too. So I let the PFCL till I have performed the complete fluid air exchange, and at the last moment I remove the PFCL. So it's a nice technique to treat a large macular hole or refractory macular hole, and it's a very good option.
Thanks a lot. Hi, Athanasius. You got earlier, a little bit earlier today. It's good to see you.
Just in order to listen to some very interesting things you are saying there.
And thank you for coming. And I want to introduce you, if you don't know yet, Dr. Frédéric Matonti Athanasius from France. It's
nice
our first guest from France. He's from Marseille. Have you been in Marseille, Athanasius?
No, but my wife works near Marseille in a place called Orange.
Okay, yeah, it's not far away.
So we got a representative here in the area.
It's nice in Marseille. You could move southward and to be in Marseille.
Anyway, Marseille is Greek anyway, so it's,
yeah, exactly.
I can go without a passport there.
And also Ahmed, welcome back.
Yes, hi, good morning. Sorry, it's, the alarm didn't go in time, so...
I know it's a little bit earlier for you, because
it's
probably...
It's 6:24 now.
It's, what time is it there now, 5:30?
No, it's not, now it's 6:24 a.m.
6:30,
6:29 a.m., so 6:30.
Oh yeah, I know. You are in Pacific.
Central time.
Good. But anyways, since you came, and if you want to present your case, Ahmed, it is ready?
Yeah. Is there someone, give me just one, I need a minute to upload.
Okay, so I can call somebody else first, and then you could introduce your case, no problem.
I think I'm ready.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah, and it's all tips and tricks, and there is nothing important what I'm going to show you. I'm for experienced people like you. But I think I can be the space between Ahmed and important people. I can take over.
I was a little bit worried about because of your time. It's a little earlier for you.
No, it's okay. I got this thing here. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Can you see can we share the screen?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting, because that's very, very valuable for my knowledge group. I'm always learning from each time that we get together. And it's nice to know that you're never too old to learn. And so I'm just going to show you a few tricks that I'm doing using sclerodepressor. And one of the tricks is that when you don't have a cannula, a trocar, and you want to insert a light pipe or something like that inside the eye through the conjunctiva, the only thing you can do it safely is by creating a little diathermy on the surface of the conjunctiva. See, this way the conjunctiva and the sclera becomes the same. So you can enter there, and you can put something without a trocar. Sometimes we don't have enough trocars to use that, we sterilize and all this stuff. So let me show you this stuff, how I'm doing it. You see, I'm just flattening the conjunctiva on the sclera. and then I go with a 25 gauge needle, vertically, not sideways, vertically, to go inside. And this attachment that I made with a diathermy keeps the hole open and give me time to put a light pipe inside the eye without a trocar. So this is a trocarless light pipe, and also it gives you the mobility for the assistant to direct the light pipe which way you want to go. That's the assistant doing. And now I'm going to show you how useful is scleral depressor in difficult cases like this one. For example, we have a big inverted big tear in a sort of a PVR, beginning of a PVR, and we want to remove all the traction without actually cutting the avulsed vessel that is hanging on the top of the flap, of the anterior flap. We don't want this blood to get behind the retina. We don't want to cut this huge vessel there. So we like to lift it and cut it with a high-speed cutter without actually cutting anything else. And you see the posterior pressure that is doing by the surgeon and not by the assistant. This is very important. I'm using always scleral depressor by me. I'm not depending on the assistant which way to go. So I know how much pressure I should apply. And there are some complications of scleral depressor that people should know, but it's not the time to talk about it. We're talking about the advantages of scleral depressor. That means that it gives you less mobility. For example, in this bullous detachment, you cannot do anything freely in the eye. So we try with scleral depressor to find the tear, and then we go on the top of the tear, and by sucking fluid behind the tear, and by pushing the, you see in a minute, by pushing the retina sideways or vertically or whatever we'd like to do, we try to go near the hole, remove all the traction, and then the subretinal fluid, you don't have to go inside. Subretinal fluid is going to come out like a current in a lake. And you see that I'm always moving up the scleral depressor sideways, vertically, until I saw the opening that the fluid is coming even that way far from the vitrectomy probe. I don't have to go inside, you can see, and you can see the rest of the retina becoming flat. And now it's an easy game to do. So to use scleral depressor to do that, and finally, when we have a flat area, we can remove all the traction from the tear and to have the benefit of a flat retina to continue. While we do that, we do a fluid air exchange by sucking the remnants of fluid inside the eye. So we will have the end of this operation by doing some laser at the end. You see these bubbles of air that they are coming because it's a phakic eye, means that you have not removed the whole vitreous behind the lens. If the air comes in bubbles, that means that you still have some vitreous left there. But it's on the posterior surface of the lens, and it's not very alarming. So then by scleral depressor, we still do the laser. And we end up with a flat retina and a quite comfortable eye with 25 gauge surgery. I think that's about it, the uses of scleral depressor and the scleral diathermy in order to get without trocar. Thank you. That's in the intermission between the severe cases that Ahmed is going to give you. Thank you very much for accepting me. That's all.
Thanks, Athanasios. Athanasios, let me ask you something. You did this, the incision for the assistant to hold the light pipe, but then you don't really depend on him to do the indentation. This is very cool because you know where you want to go, where you want to indent, and which breaks you want to see. This is a cool thing. But does the assistant have to be changing the positions very often. How do you manage to convince the assistant to move here, move there, to get a good view from the periphery?
First of all, I didn't show that. You know the steady strip we have? We have a piece of steady strip. When we enter the light pipe, towards the hand of the assistant, around the light pipe, we put a steady strip, which works like a handle from the outside, if you hold it. If you stick it together, the two edges of the steady strip, it becomes a handle. So if the assistant has something that people don't understand, that I don't like a co-surgical observation system for the assistant. That means I don't like the assistant to have a different option to see different things than I do. So we have just the same view that I have. So if he has the same view that I have, he's just directing the light where I want the light, because he can see where I want the light. And the important thing about the assistant in this kind of bimanual surgery is to hold the light and not the scleral depression. Since we got the ABO system, which is 120 degrees wide, I don't need anybody to hold the lens. So since I've got the scleral depression, that I control it and I know how much I should pressure it. And then the assistant's job is to mobilize the light pipe.
All right, thanks. And Jorge, would like to comment?
Retinawesome, good to see you, and so many good tricks. I don't know how to comment, because I learned a lot. The first time I saw somebody use a simple needle as a trocar, it's genius things. Save money, and I can use that. And I agree with him that when your assistant can see the same way as you can see better, because he can understand what you need to see to operate better. And this is very important. And depression is something that's after the chandelier improves a lot, because when you depress what you want is something very important, because the assistant never has the same feeling about pressure.
Dose patient with supratemporal retinal.
And everything you need to see and operate well. It's the good thing is you need to feel the retina, feel how much pressure you need to do. It's time to feel that. The young people sometimes ask what's the best situation, what is the rules. I said we need to learn with time and feel the retina and see in which position you have to depress, or how much pressure you need to use. It's something that comes with time, and try to feel the retina. But congratulations, learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me.
Thank you again. And Marcelo, good morning, buenos dias, meu amigo.
Yeah.
Se você quer apresentar, if you want to present.
Excellent. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. So this is a patient that had a retinal detachment. Previously, 20 years ago, a radial keratectomy. It was kind of difficult, the visualization of the retina. That's why I wanted to show this video, where we are putting the intraocular lens, and in this moment, this precise moment, you can see one of the incision of the adhesions of the radial keratotomy, and we put some stitches there, and continue with the procedure. This surgery is a phaco vitrectomy and scleral buckle combined. So after that, we do the peritomy, recognize the muscles, and started putting the scleral buckle. One of the things in this situation was that I adjust the buckle once I finish putting it before doing the vitrectomy, because the lesion was very, I recognized before the lesion. I put some laser 3-4 months ago in this patient, so I knew where the lesion exactly was. So I adjust in that moment. Then we start the vitrectomy. It was a superior lesion, a fish mouth actually, in the superior temporal side of the retina. So we start in the vitrectomy. As you can see, that is the lesion. We put some endodiathermy to recognize the hole and then do the vitrectomy. One of the things that we usually do is put some indentation with the scleral light. The name is Viper, it's from Oertli. We do exactly the same as Athanasius. So you can see the pipe indenting all the retina. And I think because of the indentation, one of the complications here was a choroidal, or maybe the scleral buckle. Actually, I think it's because of the indentation, one of the complications that I had in this surgery. You can see the choroidal in the left side. It was actually not that big, so we drained at that moment. To continue the surgery. Actually, here we are draining it. Yep. And then we continue the surgery.
Good drainage.
Yes. Nice view. We put some Vitreoretinal 7.0 in the incision, and then continue the vitrectomy, the air fluid exchange, put some laser on it, finishing with putting some gas. So as you can see, there's no choroidal right now. Continue the surgery. We put some additional retinotomy here because it wasn't enough the aspiration, so I needed another side to aspirate all the subretinal fluid. Then put some laser. Air fluid exchange, and I really had no trouble with the dehiscence of the cornea. Actually, right now it's closed, but it's one of the complications in this type of corneas, and also the visualization. You know, sometimes you need to remove the epithelium, and sometimes because of removing the epithelium, you have other type of problems in the cornea. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcelo, a lot. And great case, and you gotta be more used to do, more buckles, so people are forgetting to do the buckles as we did a lot more in the past. And I have some papers, and one paper that I'm going to share with you in PDF in a few minutes in the chat is a combined square buccal with parsplana vitrectomy for pseudophakic retinal detachments. I think we get more results, better results for attaching the retina and less PVR, because with the buccal you attach the retina from outside in, and with the vitrectomy you remove RPE cells, and the likelihood of getting PVR is much less, proliferative vitreoretinopathy, and the cases go well, and you showed beautifully this case, and the macula attached well, and the results are better. Do you use, after these surgeries, corticoid, PO corticoids, or only topic medication?
I use betamethasone after surgery, and then topic medication. That's it. And
what about your experience with methotrexate and the good dosings that you always tell us about? This case has any applications for that?
In this particular case, no, I didn't put it methotrexate, but in some complicated, as I mentioned, retinal detachment with PVR, there are the indication, but obviously there's no papers that big studies that help us in this situation. So I empirically use it, but I think we need more studies with methotrexate.
Okay, thanks.
So can I ask Marcelo a question about his case?
Yes.
Yes, Marcelo, this is fantastic, lovely. The buccal and the vitrectomy looks very nice. Can I ask you something again, maybe for me or for another or a junior doctor operating? Do you think that you had to drain the detachment, the choroidal detachment? Because my thinking, if it's me, I would just leave it. It's a nice indent for the vitrectomy. It should not affect anything. Even if there's a break in this area, you can laser it. And the only thing it may affect is the gas fill at the end, so you can use a slightly expansile concentration. What do you feel about leaving it?
Well, because it was a high myope patient, sometimes I leave it if the choroidal is small. But in this particular case, I prefer to drain it. It was only eye, and I wanted to sleep better. That's the only thing.
But why would drain it get you to sleep better? I mean, what's your thought process of what's the reason?
With myopes, I had some choroidals really aggressively situation before. So I think because of the past, I sometimes drain it, and I feel better doing it in that moment in the OR. Not every choroidal, as you mentioned, but in this particular case, I prefer it.
Because it raises the eye pressure. Did it raise the eye pressure?
Because of my experience with high myopes, I think that's my answer. No, I prefer not to. I'm doing surgery. If you continue doing surgery, sometimes there's another choroidal nearby, and they start complicated surgery. That's one of the.
Thanks. Andre, wanna ask?
I'd like just to congratulate Marcelo. This case is these myopic cases. They are sometimes they can get very tough. And you were right about the choroidal detachments and myopic. They tend to be a little bit more severe. The idea of increasing the pressure, because it's sometimes the cannula itself can be a little bit back and get fluid inside the eye. So I just double check the infusion cannula to see if it is not the infusion cannula. But in this myopic, any shift in the pressure, low pressure, can induce choroidal detachments. They are very thin eyes, and the sclera, like George said in the beginning, tend to leak, and you can tend to have low pressure in the post-op. You have to check for that. And in this particular case, you still have these cornea issues with radial keratectomy, and that makes it even more hard to deal with. And also, there is also the issue of the vitreous and vitreous cases, and in these cases, they are tough to deal with, bigger eyes and everything else. Well done, and good job, Marcelo. Really tough cases. Myop eyes, they are tough from the beginning till the end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And now I would like to invite Mohammed Taufik before Hamed. Mohammed, welcome back. So you just landed.
Yes, I'm at clinic now. But the share screen is not available for me. I don't know why.
Mohammed Taufik. Share the screen. Okay, okay.
Yes, now it's good. Yeah. We can see it now?
Yeah, we can see it. It's not full screen yet, but after you start the presentation, I think it's gonna go full screen. It's kind of frozen yet. And Frederick, you have some 6 minutes to start the metaverse, and if you wanna go, I don't wanna get you late there, and I'll be a little later here. But then after our meeting here, I will join you in the metaverse. Engage. I don't know.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much again, Hudson, and see you. Have a good day and have a good weekend. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. A great pleasure to have you as a keynote speaker. And
Good, so I have to leave as well. I have to go to the metaverse.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. I'll be there. I'll be there just after our meeting. I'll meet you there. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate to see the record videos that the other guys are gonna present. I'm sure that we're gonna learn a lot. Thanks so much. See you guys late. Bye.
See you.
See you.
Bye.
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 Nice to see you.
So, Mohammed, did you disconnect or you are around? So, also I want to say thank you to Sibyl Schultz from Germany. Thanks, Sibyl. It's always good to have you here. And Sibyl, she works very close with Oksana in Ukraine, and she does a very good work in that area. Thank you, Sibyl. It's a great pleasure to always have you here, and it's good to be part of IOLCon as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for your wonderful education. I'm a cataract girl, and I learned so much today from all your lectures, from all your speakers. I'm utmost thankful for this lesson. Thank you so much, and happy to be with you.
Our honor. And so I think Mohammed
I can go until Taufik is back.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. Ahmed, I think you're going to be
I have something that ties up nicely with what Thanasius was discussing about the indentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Let me try to optimize for video.
It's not full. Yeah, it's not full screen yet.
I'll try to optimize for video. Okay. So this is a case of a retinal detachment, just primary retinal detachment. I just want to show you a tip, which I think is very controversial, and I would like to hear your opinion about it. It's here me operating alone, and I have this tear there, and I want to clean around it, and then diathermy, and then drain through it. So this is the indentation coming here. To remove the flap and remove the vitreous and do some fluid drainage. Then again, indentation again for putting the diathermy. So I can see it under air. And I think this is a critical step to be able to locate the break and mark it, because once you go to air, it becomes easy, the view becomes bigger because of the air effect, so you actually don't need indentation when you're doing for air fluid exchange, but it's mainly marking the break that you need indentation and also removing the vitreous. And this is how I do it, and it works well in all the temporal quadrant. It doesn't work so well nasal unless you have a very thin finger. So just a tip, which actually I use quite often. But I'd like to hear people's opinion, and also, maybe concern about young people, young surgeons doing this, because it needs a bit of dexterity. So that's my first video. I have another video, but I thought this one is connected to what Thanasius was discussing, and I don't know if anyone tried this before.
And Ahmed, about your technique for indentation, what do you do differently when you are inside with the light pipe and the cutter, and do you get the indentation ready there, or make the indentation near the light pipe, or you have the assistant?
It happens like this, with the hand holding the light pipe and the finger. So it's the index finger.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
No, it's it's the middle finger.
Yeah, especially in phakic patients, if you have the whole very peripheral, and you have the patient, it's a phakic patient, you want to avoid the lens. How would you approach the cutter? You showed me the last Retinawesome, a very good slide showing the movements.
Yes.
This is a very good one you showed us, and so the thing is to avoid touching the lens from the posterior capsule rim below. I usually like to move the eye towards the place where I'm going at, so I avoid the lens, and I could do indentation and do vitrectomy around the hole, which is good to avoid distractions around there.
Yeah, so that break was still in the area where you can cross. It was related to the light pipe location. And there is movement happening. It's just not showing really like how things are happening, but there is movement, and still it's in the area where you can cross. I think just the idea is having the indentation with the finger. That's the idea.
Okay, thanks again. And I think, Athanasius.
Always, once a teacher, always a teacher, Salam. I'm always learning from you, always.
Oh, no, thank you so much.
That's why you have to do some private lessons in Thessaloniki. I'm not going to show you to the other people in TBRS. I will call you there for a couple of days just to show me tricks and tips like that. But mind you that look at my fingers. Everybody told me that I should be an orthopedic doctor. That's my posture and my fingers. It's for breaking legs and all this stuff, not for pushing eyes. The other issue is that we forget about indentation. A few things that people, when they apply it strongly or overwhelming, that means that you have the combination of the infusion and indentation. So if you overdo indentation, the infusion is flushing back. So you have a hypotonic eye, suddenly, by just pressing the eye, and the fluid, when you have not enough pressure, goes backwards. So that's why sometimes I put 60 in my infusion if I want to do a scleral indentation more than that. It's the opposite of what people say, to lower the pressure and do the indentation, because you're back flushing yourself, put fluid behind. The second thing is, when you push a lot the eye, then the tip of the infusion goes upwards. And then you got a problem with the lens. If you have a lens on your way, you can touch the lens with the infusion. Sorry, it's my boss, my wife, always ringing the wrong time. And those two tips are very important. And I'm using this finger that you're using a lot as a tonometer. This is my aplanation tonometer for the eye. Always touching the eye. When I'm doing any exchange, when I'm leaving the eye before I go out and I finish with the operation, always holding the eye with this finger. Because this gives me the idea. I don't count the pressure in the eye. How much pressure I should leave the eye, not be over soft, not be over toned, or whatever. So I'm using this finger, but only for pressure. But always nice ideas coming from Salam.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I have big fingers.
It's complicated. It's not so easy. You say indent, and then you have to make a lesson, a whole lesson about indentation. It's not so simple as it looks like. Everything, that's why retina is so important, because from all the tiny things, if one goes wrong, the whole operation goes wrong. That's why it's so exciting. And thank you for having it.
Thanks a lot. And
so can I share my second one? It's a short one as well.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. After this one, because I think Tawfiq got disconnected, Nagerswar, would you like me to send your video after this one?
Yes.
But can you see the screen?
Well, after Ahmed's case.
Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
good. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it was good. It was
okay,
cool.
All right. So this is, again, another controversial thing. This is the standard management of drop nucleus, where you enlarge the wound, enlarge the sclera, and introduce the fragmentome. But I don't like this for two reasons. First, you make an opening in the conjunctiva and sclera. I mean, I think it defeats the purpose of transconjunctival vitrectomy, but that's not the main reason. The main reason I don't like pars plana entry, especially big ones, where you introduce a big instrument, because of possibility of entry side break. So this is a technique that I read about, and then I used it for the past 5 years, where actually you introduce it through the cornea or through the limbal incision. And here how it works. So you have about a 1.4 incision, and you just introduce the fragmentome needle. The problem is the angle of attack. The angle of attack is steep, so that makes falls in the cornea, and also gives you like not a very nice feeling that the eye is tilted. But I just want to show you here that you don't get phaco burn. And if you may remember, in the early 2000s, there was this bimanual vitrectomy concept. And this is what we did, is we used the Kelman tip. So we used the phacoemulsification, the Kelman tip, and that's actually really nice, because that curve in the Kelman tip compensates for the weird angle of attack. This curve there, I will show here, and makes the deformation in the cornea very minimal. And the nice thing about it is that it's always available. You don't need to get the fragmentome, which might not be available. The other thing about it is you really don't open the conjunctiva and all the risk of scleral injuries. So that's something I've been doing. It doesn't work if you have a lens in the eye. So you need to speak to the people who refer to you the drop nuclei so as not to put a lens. And this has been my standard for the past 5 years. It's just to use a lens, but we've never seen any case of wound burn. If the pupil is small, we put iris hoops. But otherwise, it works really so well, it's always available.
All right. Thanks, Ahmed, for sharing such a good case. And I want to call Nageswar. Nageswar, you want me to share your video?
Excuse me. Yes, I will show you. Now my question towards Dr. Ahmed. So how the visibility of the corneal deformation?
So with the Kelman tip, the deformation is minimal because the deformation happens because the angle of attack is steep. But with the Kelman tip, because of that tip curve in the Kelman, it compensates for the angle of attack. So the deformation is minimal. There is still a bit of a learning curve, but it's really very minimal.
How big will the wound, corneal wound?
So it's about 1.4.
1.4?
1.4.
Okay, so now let me introduce Nageswar case. Just a second. Here.
No,
yeah.
I will do that. I will do that.
Yeah, can I start?
No, let me do that because I cannot have a control over
Okay, okay. So go ahead.
Excuse me. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is the same. Actually, so many detachments we have discussed today. I always pay my whole regards to Dr. Athanasius because he's a wonderful teacher and gives a lot of tips actually all the time. Every time I come to this meeting, actually I learn so many things. Very many small tips he gives, very wonderful tips. I always pay my regards to him. And this is again the same detachment only. It's a complex detachment which a 60-year-old had a detachment total.
The video is not moving yet, Nageswar.
No. I am just speaking. So he has come with total retinal detachment, and you can see the choroidals, big choroidals, 360 degree, with a dense cataract nuclear, with a nuclear cataract, and he was the only seeing eye, so he had the detachment. So to proceed with, it's a total detachment with a macular hole also, of course. Total RD. And this is the macular hole. So in contrast to Dr. Marcelo, I would tell that I'll always prefer to remove the cataract, put a buccal encerclage whenever I'm feeling like actually. So I put a buccal before removing the cataract. This is what I follow because the eye becomes actually stable while you do buckling. Once you do the cataract, I feel the eye becomes soft. So the putting a buccal becomes difficult, or it makes the eye very soft even. Sometimes it may lead to choroidal detachment, what he has shown. That's what I can feel. So better to put a buccal first, if you're interested to put, then do cataract. This is very hard cataract. Then This is the, see, whole 360 detachment actually. The choroid was moving like anything. It's very deep. Very, in fact, for the juniors, it's very important actually to put the cannulas while you go inside. And because of the 360 choroidals, the retina was very much elevated and the choroid was pushing, like actually the choroid was making indentation sort of thing actually. And here, as the macular hole was there, I put PFCL and a bit of autologous blood to remove the ILM. Then what I would like to tell is, when the choroidal detachment is there along with the RD, with the vitrectomy we should be very cautious actually. That is what I learned. We should not be so aggressive with a minimal suction and in fact the cutting at your own speed, because chance of cutting the retina and choroid along with the choroid is more when the choroidals are there. And minimal vitrectomy, very judicious vitrectomy is important. That's what I feel. And aggressively we should not try to remove the vitreous. Whatever the limited vitreous, whatever the tractions are there, try to remove. And otherwise unnecessarily we will make lot of holes in the retina as well as the choroid. And in this case, it went well. I selected oil because the patient was on one-eyed. It was the only seeing eye. Otherwise, it could have settled with the gas also. This is personal choice. Then everything went well.
And I guess where you did the peel, the ILM peel under PFO?
Yes, under PFO.
But then, did you stain before you put the PFO? You stain with what you use? Brilliant blue?
Brilliant blue, as well as while in fact some amount of blood also came while doing this one ILM pill. That acted as autologous blood. It actually made my ILM to visible better.
Yeah, very good. I like to use PFO for peeling.
Yes, under PFO it becomes actually better to hold the ILM.
Oh yeah,
Ahmed, detached retina.
Did you finish the case?
Yes, I finished.
Okay, Ahmed, do you want to ask Nagaswar?
Yes, I have a question. Did you do cryo for the break or was laser?
Pardon? I cryosed the break.
Okay, I just want to highlight a tip that I find if there's a buckle. So if you're going to use the cryo, do not tighten the buckle before doing the cryo, because you're not going to be able to do that.
Yes.
And then you tighten the buckle, just for the junior doctors. Because I thought it's very nice that you use the cryo. I just wanted to highlight this point.
Yes, cryo.
Well, Ahmed, you did a very good notice about the cryo and the buckle, but I have to go back a little bit. The problem with putting a silicone or band, 2 millimeter silicone band, and having to adjust it, it takes a lot of experience to do it beforehand, afterhand, before drainage, after drain, before vitrectomy, after vitrectomy, before cataract, after cataract. You know why? Because you can never know exactly how much you need before doing it. So it's for experienced people. For my fellows, I projected something else. I tell them to put a 3 millimeter sponge, 360 degrees, like this band, but a sponge just behind the muscles, suturing in 4 quadrants, and leave it there, because this 3 millimeter sponge doesn't need to be adjusted. Just place it. The adjustment is done by the intraocular pressure, and you avoid the adjustment problem. To give you an idea, if you have an infusion inside the eye and you try to drain the eye, you can incarcerate the retina. If you have a flat eye, if you have a very soft eye and you try to adjust it, you can do a roll and you can do problem with the anterior ischemia. So those adjustment by the band for newcomers, for people that are starting to do a combination of things, that in your case was excellent, the whole thing, the whole situation. I think if anybody has an idea of considering to put a 3mm sponge that doesn't need adjustment.
All right. Thanks a lot. And it seems that Mohammed Tawfiq is back, and Natalia Jean just arrived. And Tawfiq, you got a better connection by now?
I hope I am now connecting. You heard me well?
Yeah. Whenever you want to start your case. Yes. Hello, Natalia Jean. How was the dinner? Okay, you could go ahead.
Professor Nataraja, do you know where you are now?
So this is the case for Mohammed Tawfiq.
I'm ready now, Dr. Hudson. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we see it now.
I'm presenting.
But it's not yet full screen.
Because when I go for first screen, it's something like it's
okay, but okay. So I think you could do without full screen. Okay, that's not a problem.
I will present a case of 27 years old female, presenting with defective vision 2 years ago, with recent diminution of vision, left recent diminution of vision, with a night blindness, negative bus history, and free systemic history. The patient have a counting finger right eye, best corrected visual acuity left eye 0.2, and this is a color fundus photo of the both sides, right eye and left eye. So a peripheral pigmentation and something like elevation in the posterior pool. I order the OCT for the patient, and I see this is a huge scatic cavity in the right eye, and this is scatic cavity in the left eye. I did go for fluorescein angiography. I didn't find any leaking point, and do further investigations. VEBs is delayed retinochoroidal transmission. So now we have a middle-aged female, bilateral impaired vision, with bilateral posterior pool retinoschisis, with peripheral pigmentary changes and night blindness. I asking the parent to bring his sister, and also when examining the sister, they have a 0.2 best corrected right eye, 0.4 best corrected in left eye, and we have the same pictures of peripheral pigmentation without retinoschisis, and the phobia is good. So this is our differential diagnosis of such cases. It's about idiopathic papillomacular retinoschisis or X-linked retinoschisis, degenerative retinoschisis, autosomal dominant retinoschisis, neovascular AMD, enhanced S-bone dystrophy. It's called Goldman-Favor syndrome, and OMB also secondary. And we are going for enhanced S-bone dystrophy Goldman-Favor syndrome because it's associated with acute adult onset macular scoliosis in such a case. So I will go directly with what I'm doing. I'm searching for literatures about the case that improved with the systemic carbonic anhydrase inhibitors for the treatment of acute adult onset macular foveus cases, but after 1 month, I have no any improvement of such a case. And also, this is the left eye. So I decided to go for the vitrectomy in this case, removing the posterior hyaloid, not peeling the ILM. I kept the ILM and just go with a 40 gauge cannula, actively aspirating this scatic cavity. And like that you see now, I just go with a 41 gauge, and this is a huge scatic cavity with active aspiration of this scatic cavity. And this is what we are seeing post-operative. The patient post-operatively, you see there is an air bubble. Still there is an air bubble inside the cavity, the vitreous cavity. And this is what's just 1 week after the surgery. The whole scatic cavity has disappeared and improved. But the vision didn't improve much. Patient reported he had improvement in central scroma. Whatever the visual acuities didn't improve much, and he is insisted to do the second eye because if you see the second eye is deteriorating after 2 months. So I go also for the surgery for the second eye, And also the same technique, but in this eye, the scatic cavity is a little bit shallow. So the penetrations of this scatic cavity is much more precious. And this is what we are seeing in the left eye after the surgery. The patient improved 2 lines in the visual acuity, the scatic cavity decreased, and this is a follow-up of the patient in the right eye and long follow-up of the patient with the right eye. But when I decided to present this case, after Dr. Hansen told me, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, just 2 weeks ago, I have another patient with the same pictures. This is the patient with the same pictures, but this patient is male patient. It's a bilateral and have the same the previous case. And also I decided to do the same. This is a surgery one. And also I go for active aspiration of the scatic cavity. And as you can see, the scatic cavity is on table decrease by actively aspiration with using the 41 gauge cannula connecting to silicone injection kit. And now you can see the foveal appearance and the choroidal pattern deeply. And I will presenting the OCT 2 days ago of this patient, just 1 week, with a marked decrease in the scatic cavity. So my take-home message in such a case, make sure you analyze your case correctly before any decision. Restoration of anatomy can sometimes surprise you with its effect on vision, even if it takes a long time to prove that. Use all the available techniques you can help your patient with and report your uncommon cases as it may help others as well. And thank you.
Thanks a lot. Very cool case. What the make of that tip you use? It's a med one? Pretty much the same
this
way.
is from mid one, 41 gauge from mid one. I connecting the tip with the silicone injection kit, but I use the syringe from also made one company, not the syringe of the silicone. So the 41 gauge tip is connecting to the syringe of the made one. And also all this one is connecting to the silicone injection kit. So I use active aspiration of the scatic cavity, not passive aspiration.
All right, very good. Olivia would like to comment on Mohamed's case, or Marcelo?
Well, my comment is it's a beautiful surgery. Actually, I like a lot Mohamed, but sometimes these chronic edemas are bothering all the time. You know, maybe you have I have some experience with doing some surgery in this type of maculas, and then the edema comes back, and 3-4 months later the edema comes back. So it's a really chronic macular edema that we are dealing with, and that's the patient needs to know that also. It's very important.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and I become impressed with the images you get from the macula, with the macula lens view. And it looks very easy, but these are complex cases because, but if you compare the OCTs, it gets a lot better. Congratulations, Mohamed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Natarajan, can you, I think you can unmute now.
Yes, I can unmute, yes.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for coming and making up for our meeting. Thanks again.
Yes, yes.
Good always to see you. You're always smiling like that. Life is good, and hope you had a good dinner. Did the dinner
Yes.
is going on yet or finished?
It's still going on, but I came outside for our webinar. But dinner was good, excellent. And
Okay.
Tanas is here. Nice to see him.
Well, nice to see you again, but the question was not answered. Do you know where you are now?
I've answered. See, I'll show you the Twin
Which
Tower.
city? Which country? Do you know where you are now?
You can see the Twin Tower.
Oh, that's why. If you don't see the Twin Towers, you can be in New York, you can be anywhere. So I'm wondering, when you wake up in the morning, do you know which hotel you stay?
That's the problem. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
a bit
the
of a
problem.
Okay.
But before we carry on, before you present your case, Natarajan, Ahmed Salam, I think he wanted to comment on the last case from Taufik.
Yes. Good to see you, Nataraja, and good to see everyone, of course. Tawfiq, it's a great case. Thank you so much. I had a question. In general, when I tried the 41 gauge to drain subretinal fluid and retinal detachment just to make a small retinotomy, it did not work. So I wonder if Tawfiq and others have any experience with this, and why it's working in this case and why it may not work in retinal detachment cases. Is it the amount of fluid or
I think, Dr. Ahmed, in my cases, it's not a fluid, it's an ascetic cavity. In other cases, maybe the viscosity of the fluid with this small port of the syringe prevents the aspiration of such a fluid. You can see when you use the fluid needed and you aspirate the viscous fluid from subretinal spaces, you may feel when you go for passive aspiration, you need to active aspirating this fluid. But if you have just a ascetic cavity, it's no problem to go for active aspiration. And also, you may check for the 41 gauge cannula. Maybe it's sometimes it's blocked or stuck, or it is a new one. Also, you need to check it. But I think in ascetic cavity, no problem or no issue for the aspiration. But in another cases of diabetic or subretinal fluid of detachment or something like that, the viscosity of the fluid may be heavier than to go for this small gauge cannula. This is my opinion, just brainstorming with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have two cases left, just Natarajan's case in mind. But Natarajan, are we able to share your screen?
Yes, I'll share the screen. Yes. You can see the screen?
Yes. Yeah, it's good.
You can see the egg yolk appearance on the fundus. That's the story I'm going to tell. So this was a 59-year-old male with sudden central patch noticed in the right eye 1 month, diagnosed with preretinal hemorrhage elsewhere, no history of diabetic only 1 year, and history of hypertension since 4 years. And the patient was admitted for history of dengue fever with NS1 hepatitis was positive, had a history of melena, lactate acidosis, altered sensorium with deranged liver function test and INR. History of pneumonia, aspiration, sepsis with the Acinetobacter baumannii plus Klebsiella pneumonia and Meralgia parasitica. History of gastroparesis and case of acute or chronic liver failure with the hepatic encephalopathy and acute respiratory distress syndrome. And then he came, this was the fundus picture with a counting finger 2-meter vision, and you can see a yellow appearance, and this is the appearance on the OCT, and it was looking like a subretinal, but you'll be now seeing the video. So this is the intra picture of the procedure, and I'll show you the video. So I planned a 25 gauge 3-port pars plana vitrectomy using the 3D, and I used the RTO 850 and no financial interest. You can see I'm completing the anterior post retraction, and there was some PVD, and now I use the steroid to stain the vitreous and complete the vitrectomy, just to make sure the uncut vitreous and posterior cortical vitreous are stained and removed. And I'm using the cutter to remove the stained the cortical steroid. And there's only a little vitreous, but we can see almost the subtotal vitrectomy done. And then I decided to remove the whatever cortical vitreous remaining. And after that, I used you can see that periphery does not have enough PVD, but it took time to induce PVD and remove all the vitreous. Now I'm again removing the PVD, which is you can see that the cortical vitreous is attached to the posterior pole, and then I'm inducing with the suction, and then I'm alternating with the cutting, and then trying to induce the PVD with the cutter, and finally I'm using the retinal brush to remove and induce the PVD and complete the PVD induction. So I took enough time to induce the PVD, and you can see finally the PVD is induced, and then the rest of the cortical vitreous is cut and removed using the cutter after the total PVD induction. And then now I'm using fluid air exchange. I always like to use the fluid air exchange and stain the ILM using the brilliant blue. So this is the brilliant blue under the air. And then stain it for a minute, and then remove the brilliant blue, and then use the flexi loop to induce the ILM plane, so that then I'll use the forceps to remove the ILM. So this hemorrhage is actually seen in the sub-ILM space, and that's what I'm removing. So the ILM also was coming in bits and pieces. And our idea was to remove the ILM over the sub-ILM hemorrhage, and you can see that the blood is clotted, and also the posterior surface of the ILM is stained with the powdery blood. So I make sure that the ILM is removed over the sub-ILM hemorrhage, and also make sure that the entire ILM around the hemorrhage also is cleared. And then I use the brush and then do a gentle suction. You can see the powdery material coming into the brush. You can see the powdery storm, like a streak of a storm going and then coming into the brush. So I make sure that the suction is slow and doing the moderate suction, and then finally cleared the pre-retinal hemorrhage, which was in the sub-ILM space. And then I didn't use any gas and anything. I just used left the fluid in the eye. So this is a post-op picture. The best corrected visual acuity was 6/12, and you can see where the ILM peel. And what do you think is the real culprit here? Any guesses, Hudson?
Yeah, the technique was cool, and the final picture shows the result. And of course, the outcome has changed. But, it's difficult to think about the culprit. Do you have any idea, André?
Yeah, maybe some exudation from the bacteria, but I was amazed that was just that. I thought there was more damage. So in the end, you and the patient get very lucky. Congratulations, Natarajan. Amazing case as usual. You bring.
I know, but I also thought like that, but it was not an exudation. And I'll show you again I'll share the screen. Where is the share screen? I again lost it. Oh, yeah.
Ahmed, what do you think?
I think it's for sure blood, but what caused the bleeding, I don't know if it's the septic condition of the patient caused the bleeding, but I think this is definitely dehemoglobinized blood.
Yeah, and can I share the screen again, Hudson? I don't know where.
Sure, of course. Oh, yeah. And let me ask you, did dengue was confirmed for this patient?
That's right, it was confirmed. Yeah, so that's the answer. So the dengue was confirmed, and so that's the answer. The dengue was confirmed.
That could be my guess.
Yes, no, you're right. And there's also the publication of the pneumatic. They have done, this was there in the Turkish Journal of Ophthalmology, pneumatic displacement of dense subar inner limiting membrane premacular hemorrhage and dengue maculopathy. But that can be done only when you have fresh blood, but not like this clotted blood and the patient came 1 month after the bleeding. And I think he was that was the final post-op picture. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Hudson.
Thank you. Thank you. This is the culprit here. You see there are a lot, and especially in this season when you have these rainy days and water becomes pooled in some areas. It's very common over here. Thanks a lot. And last but not least, on our list here is my case that I shared.
Okay, all right. So a question here, I mean, just again for the junior doctors watching us, in this era of vitrectomy with 25 and 23 gauge, and less common that you have entry side breaks related to your entry in the eye, do you still search the retina 360 before putting the tamponade, like in the era of the 20 gauge, where routinely we would search the retina for breaks?
Yes, that is every time we do.
So do you do that routinely for macular hole and everything?
Everything mandatory. Once you will go inside the vitreous cavity, before coming out or closing the case, always better to see 360 degree. Otherwise, that's a great mistake. You think, even though most of the time nowadays with the MIVS, the tears are not we are finding, but still, before ending it never ends. The case never ends before seeing the periphery. It's mandatory.
Yeah, I think that what prevents mostly the breaks is not as much as the size, but the trocaters. The trocaters avoid having this break that we had in old times. But I do, as a habit, I search for them, and in most cases I do laser to try to minimize and do not have, in these simple macular cases, retinal detachment that would be a very bad situation. So I
prophylactic laser.
Yeah, I do that.
The entry sites or 360?
Maybe it's over treat. I recognize that.
To entry sites or to or 360?
360, but 360. I avoid ciliary nerves.
If you promise me not to come to the court, if you promise me that this is a secret we have to share, I never check it.
Right.
At the end, I'm so tired and so happy if I fix something and so unhappy if I didn't fix something that I want to close it and go. There are people, though, like Jean Pournaras, who is working in Lausanne, that he's always, when he taken out at the end of the surgery, he has a gas and everything, he does a little bit of cryo in all the sclerotomy that he's doing. Posterior cryo to that. But when you do that, you will have an inflamed red eye the next day because cryo is inducing that. So you will need to have this wide eye for private cases that you want the patient to look nice the next day. And from my experience, we have very little redetachment due these tears in this era when we started using the trocars. Before the trocars, we had a lot because we were just sucking vitreous into this area and you have that. So checking the eye at the end is not so easy if you can do it because you have to pressure the eye, you have an open eye, you have at the end a successful eye, and you don't have, remember, when you remove the trocars, you might have a small hemorrhage at the sclerotomy and the blood goes back. When you push the eye to do this, you might have this and this and that. So nothing is for free in doing that. So I decided not to do it in every case. I don't know if my redetachment has to do anything with it. If you don't go to the court, I can tell you the truth, okay?
Hudson, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready now. And I also like to, after my cases, to laser on the entry sites where you do the light pipe, you have the cutter, you have the fusion. I always like to do some lasers around in order to avoid some traction from peripheral vitreous, as Athanasius mentioned. So let me share my screen now. I'm sorry about this. There is a car around here, but there is. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
So yeah. Triple peel of membranes for severe diabetic retinopathy with adherent hyaloid and tractional retinal detachment, brilliant blue and liquid perfluorocarbon assisted. This is a 23-gauge pars plana vitrectomy. The patient is phakic with a mild cataract. The hyaloid was pretty adherent and fibrous tissue could be observed all over the retina. When attempting to lift the hyaloid attached to the fibrous tissue, some concealed new vessels bled, giving a vitreous hemorrhage quickly controlled with aspiration and raising intraocular pressure. So I had good control over hazy media. That vit hemorrhage cleared away and an unblocked peel was carried out beautifully. Some preretinal hemorrhage was aspirated with the backflash cannula and the lens remained clear at all times. Next step was to erase the vessels with endocautery that was necessary to halt all remaining hemorrhages, and backflash cannula was used too. An air fluid exchange AFX was carried out to see whether it was feasible to remove the internal limiting membrane, cause retinal folds were observed, causing contraction over the macula. So brilliant blue was then injected for that purpose to stain the macula. With a macular contact lens and a 25-gauge retinal forceps, the ILM was approached and the peeling was started. It was very slow at this point due to quite strong adherence of the ILM on the macula, especially around vessels. Notice this whitish fibrous tissue interwoven with the ILM, making it quite challenging to do. The direction of the peeling, because this is inverted image, was from inferiorly towards the optic nerve in a clockwise direction. But anyways, a nice and round peeling was performed with no retinal tears. Time now for liquid perfluorocarbon PFC to flatten the macular area, create an interface for a better laser, and halting any bleeding that could possibly ensue. And the laser was so applied to the retina with a very good intake and started with a wide-angle contact lens but soon switched to the macular lens so as to give a better and more detailed visualization of the retina. PSC was removed and another AFX performed. Thank you very much. I appreciate your attention.
Excellent, Hudson.
That was about it. Not an easy case always with retinal detachment and those cases with diabetic retinopathy and tractional retinal detachments. And oftentimes I like to do vitrectomy, but then I observe whether there is any traction. And in this case, in this particular case, there were retinal folds. So after relieved the retina off the ILM, and it became much better. And André, would like to comment?
Yeah, great case, Hudson. Do you use Avastin before, some days before in these cases?
If I use what? Antiangiogenics?
Yes, before the surgery.
Yeah, sometimes, yes. In private patients, I usually do, but in a public system that we have, sometimes it gets longer to get available the drugs. But some cases, before the vitrectomy, I order bevacizumab, ranibizumab, but usually we get bevacizumab. Rarely we get Eylea before the cases, and they get better before the surgery. Of course, the eye gets more prepared. If I can use, of course, it's better. The retina gets more controlled, less hemorrhages, more control over the vitrectomy. You don't have to deal too much with the raising intraocular pressure to deal with these cases.
Yeah, sometimes I think that triamcinolone can help clot the blood as well. Have you tried that?
No, not triamcinolone. I like to do vitrectomy using the color and visualization. I love after the first approach, the first vitrectomy, core vitrectomy with a wide angle lens. I like using the macular lens to see and take a good look at the vitreous. So I don't usually use triamcinolone because after I removed all these membranes, the hyaloid, I removed the epiretinal tissue. Sometimes the epiretinal membrane precludes you from seeing well the ILM, or at least it precludes you from staining well. So after I remove sometimes the epiretinal tissue, which is very adherent over the macular area, I like to stain twice. Like I stain first after fluid exchange, and then I stain again with the brilliant blue, and then I see well the ILM. So I don't usually, I never actually use triamcinolone. What do you think, Natarajan?
I think wonderful. You demonstrated everything possible in a case of the diabetic traction retinal detachment. I think I routinely, I do only private, so I do the ranibizumab injection 48 hours before and do the vitreous surgery. But I think you demonstrated very well that you need a good PRP. And in India also, we don't have patients with enough PRP pre-op. So I think we have to do extensive pan-retinal photocoagulation and maybe also need a anti-VEGF a month later. But I think wonderful demonstration of the case.
And also, as Andre asked, I know that you, Natarajan, you use more triamcinolone, much more than we use here. I saw many cases. And also you start teaching your residents and fellows with triamcinolone as well. It's good to see the vitreous. But as I said, I prefer to have a good view from the vitreous after core vitrectomy using the macular lens. And if I get a good view from the vitreous, I wouldn't need to use the triamcinolone. But you use a lot, no, Natarajan?
Yes, I use a lot, yes. Yes. Dr. Ahmed wants to talk.
Yes, it's a great case, Hudson, and these cases are really difficult. I think, you use the blue dye to stain the ILM, and that, I think it does stain the vitreous. Maybe not as triamcinolone, but I think it will show you as well if there's any vitreous. So I think you do that at the same time, in a way. I find these cases very difficult, really diabetic, and we have a lot of them here. So usually we use anti-VEGF 2 days before, and I think it makes a difference in bleeding during the operation, and there's evidence as well to show early post-operative bleeding with them is less, but not late bleeding. And I do the same, but the one thing I maybe do different is I try to avoid the ILM peel. I just leave them without ILM peel and just remove the epiretinal traction. But yeah, these cases are really difficult. A great job.
Yeah, thanks. And another tip to halt hemorrhage, actually, the PFC that you put on the macula it helps with the intraocular pressure and avoids from, the new vessel to hemorrhage, and also creates a surface, a good surface for you to do the endocautery. So I like using PFC just over the macula there, and then just remove it, and the hemorrhage goes away. I get limited to the endocautery. I just do it in vessels that are really bleeding there. What do you think, Olivia?
Hudson, congratulations. I loved your case. Currently, my approach for these cases is with Triamcinolone alone. I am loving it. It helps you with the membrane visualizations and for removal of them. And after that, I use the Brilliant Blue peeling. And in this case, you didn't have any hole. So I do the air fluid interchange, and I leave an anti-angiogenic like Avastin in the eye.
Yeah, because holes could be common because you have the tractional retinal detachment. If you pull too much, you create a hole. So if the case is worse than this one, and you have the retina detached with traction, and then I would prefer to peel from outside in, so as to avoid the tear in the middle of the macula. So like this case, it was still cool and good to do from the center. But in some cases, we gotta start the approach from outside in order to avoid breaks or holes.
Excellent.
So I thank you very much. I think we pretty much finished the cases. I learned a lot. I have to tell you that all cases were so welcome, and we all had something different to learn from each other. And this is the good thing from Retinawesome. And I would like to leave it up to Natarajan. We always like the seniors to finish the Retinawesome sessions, and Natarajan yes. is in a very good mood and good environment now with this such a good dinner that he's having at Apao.
Professor Wai-Ching Lam here. He's here in Kuala Lumpur.
Did you meet Wai-Ching Lam? He's around?
Yeah, yes, he's there.
Yeah, say hello. My professor.
We were together in the morning trauma session. I was chairing, and he gave a good talk. And I always thank you, Hudson, for having me for all the Retinawesome. With Retinawesome 19, I think I'm after you. I'm 100% there.
Oh yeah, thanks. And have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks again for participating.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Athanasius.
Nice to see Nataraja. Today is Saturday. Today is Nati. It's Saturday today.
Yes.
Because he eats only one day a week on Saturday.
Yes.
He eats once a week. That's why he still looks like that. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, nice meeting everybody.
See you in Greece, Thessaloniki, Vitreoretinal Summer School. Bye, guys.